From the summer of 1942 to the winter of 1943, the world witnessed one of the deadliest and most brutal battles in history, the Battle of Stalingrad. More than 2 million soldiers and civilians were caught in a desperate struggle for control of this key Soviet city. Hitler saw Stalingrad as the gateway to Soviet domination, while Stalin ordered that the city be defended at all costs. But in the end, it was here that the tide of World War II would turn against Nazi Germany. In June 1941, Adolf Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa, the largest invasion in history. More than 3 million German troops stormed into the Soviet Union, pushing deep into Russian territory. By mid-1942, the Nazis controlled vast areas of the Soviet Union, and Hitler had one key objective in mind: the oil-rich Caucasus region. But to reach the oil fields, the Germans needed to capture one vital city, Stalingrad. The city was not just strategically important, it carried symbolic value. Named after Soviet leader Joseph Stalin, Hitler wanted to take it to humiliate the Soviets. Stalin, in return, ordered his men to fight to the last bullet. In August 1942, the German Sixth Army, led by General Friedrich Paulus, launched a full-scale assault on Stalingrad. 1,200 Luftwaffe bombers turned the city into ruins, leaving behind a wasteland of destruction. Thousands of civilians died in the first weeks alone, but Stalin refused to evacuate the population, believing their presence would encourage soldiers to fight harder. As German forces moved in, they faced something unexpected: Soviet resistance like never before. The Red Army and civilian militias fought street to street, house to house. Every block of Stalingrad became a battlefield. The Battle of Stalingrad became a nightmare for both sides. The Germans, used to blitzkrieg, fast, mechanized warfare, were now forced into brutal, close-quarters combat. The Soviets turned every building into a fortress, forcing German soldiers to fight for every street. The Red October Factory, the Barikadi Factory, and Mamayev Kurgan. These became symbols of Soviet resistance. Soviet snipers, including the legendary Vasily Zaitsev, picked off German officers from the shadows. Stalin's order was clear: not a step back. As temperatures dropped, both sides suffered. Soldiers fought in the ruins, often starving and freezing. Yet, despite the odds, the Soviets held on. By November 1942, the Germans had captured 90% of Stalingrad. Hitler believed victory was near, but he had underestimated the Soviet strategy. On November 19, 1942, the Soviets launched Operation Uranus. In a massive counteroffensive, over 1 million Soviet troops attacked the German flanks, held by weaker Romanian and Italian forces. Within days, the Soviets encircled the entire German Sixth Army inside Stalingrad. The Germans were trapped, cut off from supplies, surrounded in the freezing winter. Inside the city, conditions were horrific. German soldiers had no food, no reinforcements, and no escape. Hitler forbade surrender, ordering General Paulus to fight to the death. But his troops were starving, freezing, and dying by the thousands. By January 31st, 1943, the situation was hopeless. General Paulus, now promoted to Field Marshal, became the first German commander in history to surrender instead of fighting to the death. On February 2nd, 1943, the last German forces in Stalingrad laid down their arms. Of the 300,000 German troops who entered Stalingrad, fewer than 90,000 survived to become prisoners. Most never returned home. The Battle of Stalingrad was a turning point in World War II. It shattered the myth of Nazi invincibility and marked the beginning of Germany's retreat. Hitler never fully recovered from this defeat, and from this moment on, the Germans were on the defensive. The Soviet victory at Stalingrad boosted morale across the Allied nations and set the stage for the Red Army's push toward Berlin. Without Stalingrad, World War II could have ended very differently. This was Echoes of Time, bringing you the stories that shaped history. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more epic historical deep dives. See you in the next one.